Thank you so much for having me today, everybody, here at Cisco Connect in Latin America. My name is Steve Gansen. I'm in the Americas Industry Sales Organization, and I support and lead our manufacturing sales vertical. This has been an awesome event. We're talking to a lot of customers about manufacturing. Some of the most common questions are, what are the trends? What's happening in manufacturing? That's kind of our starting point. The biggest trends in manufacturing are very global trends. We talk about the performance of the manufacturing plants, things like unscheduled downtime, machine stopping, analytics. We talk about a workforce, not only able to attract a workforce, but retain a workforce. Sustainability is incredibly important in manufacturing these days. It's our responsibility to do more with less in the plants with sustainability. And then of course there's cybersecurity. We talk about cybersecurity everywhere we go with every customer we have. So let's kind of drill into those a little bit. So if we talk about sustainability as a talk track, sustainability means what? It means doing better with our planet. It means doing better with our resources. And it means leaving the planet better for our children and our grandchildren and generations to come than we found it. That's what it means. So in manufacturing specifically, yes, it's about less water, it's about less greenhouse gas emissions, it's less about a carbon footprint. But you know what else? It's about scrap and waste on the plant floor. If we kind of try to measure that or have a conversation around that, what if you're a tire company and you're making tires for cars? And the tire, the rubber comes to your factory, you make a tire, you put it on a truck, you deliver it to a store, to an automotive store. They put the tire on my car and it's wrong. Something's wrong with the tire. So it's like, no, the tire's bad, I need a new tire. Well, that means what are they going to do with the tire that's bad? Recycle it? Probably going to recycle that tire. But all of the energy that went into making that tire and getting that tire to me and trucking that tire across the country, you don't get that back. You just don't get that back. So when in manufacturing, we talk a lot about scrap and waste, which kind of leads us to the next conversation around plant productivity. Analytics is probably the number one investment in manufacturing right now. What does analytics need? Analytics needs a lot of data from the plant floor. If we think about things like unscheduled downtime, for example, and what does that mean? That means machines that just go down. They just have a problem, a motor fails, a tank fails, there's a problem. Motors generally, not always, but they exhibit a bit of a behavior before they fail. It's like your car. If you're driving your car down the road and you see the temperature starting to overheat, do you keep driving your car? You don't keep driving your car. It's okay, something's wrong, I need to pull over, assess the situation, and find out what's wrong with my car. It's the same in manufacturing. A motor in a big tank, or a motor blending a batch, or a motor that's making food, doesn't normally just catastrophically fail. It exhibits a behavior. That behavior might be it's getting hot, which means maybe insulation is breaking down. It could be vibrating, maybe the gearbox or bearings are going bad, but it's signaling something. It's signaling, hey, something's going wrong and we need to take a preventative action on that before we have a problem. Because if you're in the middle of a big manufacturing process, maybe you're making infant formula or infant cereal, and the motor that's blending that fails, that whole tank has to be scrapped. You can't reuse it. The regulatory compliance would say you weren't tracking the temperature and the flow in the tank. So there's more scrap and waste. There's a sustainability discussion. So what do? We just listen to the motor. It can be as simple as that. It's a kind of a crawl, walk, run strategy. So listen to the motor. Is it getting hot? Is it vibrating? It's great. Let's take an action on that. Predictive maintenance gets a little bit more capable. So what does it do? So the analytics on the plant floor would say, now I'm going to look at a variety of data. It may not just be the motor data, it may be outside temperature, it may be inside temperature, it may be conveyor belt speed. There's 1,000 data points that come into this database, and the analytics engine would say, hey, that motor's going to fail in 6 weeks, in 7 weeks. All of these behaviors, these minor behaviors you may not notice, are happening. So now what? Well, do we have a spare motor? No, we better order a spare motor. So you see what's happening is everybody needs to do more with less. We need to be really efficient on how we manufacture in today's very competitive world, because it is an interesting world in manufacturing for sure. If we kind of go down that path a little bit, let's think about where manufacturing is. Manufacturing's at a bit of a tipping point. If we think about where we've been and where we're going, I talked about plant performance, talked about sustainability. We're going to talk about cybersecurity because that's probably one of the biggest, and we'll have a little longer conversation there. But the tipping point we're in is this. We're at an intersection of old and new. Right? These manufacturing companies have been around for a long time. Of course, there's some new ones, new factories, very state-of-the-art factories, but so much of the industry is older. They've been doing things the same way for a very long time. They are at a tipping point because they're faced with a decision. Do we go or do we stay? Do we just keep doing things the way we've been doing things? That's a choice. It's always a choice. If companies choose to stay, I need to just keep doing it the way I've always done it, then what does that choice lead to? It leads to perhaps lower margins, lower profits, more expensive manufacturing because of the downtime, the older machines, they're not investing in the technology, and their competitors are going past them. Because sometimes it's not just how you do in the manufacturing industry, it's how you do compared to your competition. How are they doing? Because they're the ones outrunning you. We have an example that I often cite in the US of Gillette, who makes razors. And Gillette probably woke up one day and may not have ever seen these other razor companies come out of nowhere, shipped to your home. In the traditional manufacturing model, everybody knew what their competitors were doing. In today's environment, you can create a factory, you can create a business in 24 hours and all of a sudden be shipping razors to people's homes. That was a huge shift to the market, huge shift to the manufacturing business, and a huge shift to razors. So that's the environment we're in. Do you take that step or do you not take that step? And if you don't take that step, then that's a very challenging environment to survive in. So you need to take that step, one step at a time. You can't just leap. I'm picturing somebody standing on the edge of a cliff. You can't just leap off the edge of the cliff. But what you do is you take what you've learned. You take everything that's made you who you are as a manufacturing company, as a manufacturing industry. We're very proud of our industry. And you move it forward, one step at a time. That's the thing, if you take that first step, it's almost always followed by a second step. So we'll get in a minute, we'll get into what those steps might look like. But that's the picture of the industry we're in. And as I talk about digitizing operations, right, the analytics on the motors, on the plant floor, now we have to think about cybersecurity. Because as we continue down that path, other things happen, right? All of a sudden you're taking step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 3 may be remote experts coming into your plant. It may be the machine builders. You don't have enough plant workers on your plant floor, which is a very big challenge in front of manufacturing right now. Manufacturing is a hard job. And they're struggling to find workers to do the job. So in the industry itself, on the cement floor, there's fewer people than there used to be. So when a machine does break, when a machine does go down, then the manufacturer wants to call the machine builder and say, hey, I need help. Can you help me? My machine is down and I don't know how to fix it. And the machine builder says, yeah, absolutely, we can help you, Steve. We'll have somebody there a week from Thursday. Like, no, a week from Thursday doesn't work because we're not making cereal or candy or whatever we're making. So they said, well, that's okay. Put on a pair of real wear glasses, a headset, a computer, go out to the factory floor. You can be the eyes and the ears of our technicians because they're sitting right here in Germany. That's what's happening. That's what needs to happen in the industry. So if we pause for a second and say, okay, analytics, ones and zeros, lots of data, remote experts, you're starting to understand that the threat landscape starts getting wide. It starts getting very wide very quickly. So cybersecurity right now is probably the biggest concern in manufacturing. And why is that? Because as I mentioned earlier, the plant floors are generally older. Those machines have been there for a long time. The technology that's sitting on the cement floor of manufacturing plants can be Windows 3.1. It can be, and why is that? Because it works. Because it still makes products. It still makes food or tires or cars. There hasn't been a reason to change because the tipping point's coming at us, right? So now we need to think about it. But it's worked really well so far. But that means it's also extremely vulnerable. Extremely vulnerable. Hackers, they're getting very smart. There was a quote from our CEO not that long ago, maybe a year and a half ago, that said if cybercrime was an economy, it would be the third largest economy in the world. behind China and the United States. It is huge business. And every time somebody gets hacked, every time somebody gets locked down and pays a ransom, the business gets bigger because we're funding that business by doing that. The FBI, I've worked with the FBI on some security sessions. I need to be real clear about that. When I say I've been with the FBI, I need to be very clear. And they said that the average time from intrusion to detection is still over 30 days. Let's think about that for a second. Still over 30 days. That means the criminal is in your network for 30 days before you even know it. What are they doing? What are they stealing? What are they getting ready to lock down? That is a terrifying piece of data. The other one that's kind of interesting, and I don't know if everybody read about it, but the attacks, because they're targeted on the cement floor, because they're targeted on manufacturing, think about the criminals, they're not necessarily interested in the north-south traffic. Everybody's done a great job on yourwebsite.com, on yourcustomerexperience.com. Where we're vulnerable is on the cement floor, at the machine, and actually at the employee. And the criminals know that. They know that, so that's where they're targeting. They're not targeting the .coms as much. So how do we protect against that? There was an electric automotive company that had an attempted attack on them that actually was shared with me from the FBI. And what did they do? What did these criminals do? Knowing that the plant floor is where they're the most vulnerable, they did social networking. They found a worker on the plant floor, and they reached out to this person in California. And they offered this person $500,000 US to put a jump drive, a little thumb drive, in their machine at work tomorrow. $500,000 US. And oh, by the way, when the job is done, I'll give you $500,000 to take the drive, another $500,000 when the job is done. $1 million US. $1 million US. That is a tremendous amount of money. So the good news is the worker said no. All hands on deck, called the headquarters, got the FBI involved, and they went and arrested 2 individuals in Los Angeles, and they're in prison now. What if it hadn't worked out that way? What if that employee had a bad day? What if that employee had I didn't get my job promotion, all these things went bad, my boss is mad at me. It's $1 million US. That's a lot of money to somebody who doesn't think they're going to get caught. So when we think about cybersecurity, what's kind of interesting is it's come a bit full circle. We have to think about it all the way to the machine, all the way to the person. How are we protecting there? Because that's where the threats are coming in for the most part. So we have solutions there. And what the solution is an intent-based network. It's kind of the old adage of, back when the king built, had a village that the king wanted to protect, what did he do? He built a castle, because a castle was protection against, the enemies that were trying to take his empire or city. Well, they figured out how to climb the castle walls. Okay, well, I'll build a moat around the castle. Well, they found out how to get across the moat. Okay, well, I'll put soldiers up on the castle. What worked really well in that model works really well today. It's a defense in-depth strategy. It's not one thing. It's not just a firewall. I mean, if a manufacturing company says, well, we'll just put firewalls in, the image that comes to my mind is when you're in any city in the world, and you see a bicycle tire chained to a bike rack. I feel like there's your firewall strategy. It protected the tire, but the bike is gone. So what do you need? You need more. You need more. You need security, our cybersecurity solutions that go into the network, that have visibility into everything, that understand when a programmable controller on a machine all of a sudden starts talking to the internet, or the internet starts talking to it, or when a jump drive gets put in a computer that you weren't ready for. So it's a firewall strategy, plus a segmentation and micro-segmentation strategy, plus an intent-based network, plus visibility into everything so you know what's happening. And you can't protect what you can't see. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, when we talk about the movement of manufacturing, we need to do more with less. It's the ones and zeros, it's the analytics, it's the remote experts, it's sustainability, it's all data. It's data-driven decisions. I always have a lot of just analogies and examples, but I look at it like in manufacturing, they need to make real-time decisions based on real-time data. Kind of like Google Maps, right? If I need to go from the event here in Cancun to the airport, and I type in Google Maps, it'll show me, oh, there's construction, go around this way, or there's an accident, go around that way. So it's allowing me to make decisions based on data, not just based on what I think, based on real data. That's manufacturing. real-time decisions based on real-time data. They're pulling the data back too. That's another trend that's happening. Cloud is a great solution. The consumption model of a cloud, everybody ran to the cloud because it really helped them. And we have hybrid cloud solutions from a security standpoint, from an application standpoint. We're also there with everybody. What manufacturing found was when you go to the cloud, storage is one cost, compute is another cost, and all of a sudden, latency, amounts of data, complex analytics actually pulled things back to what we call the edge. And you can think of the edge as just inside the building, right? Because why? Because we need those real-time decisions. That tire example I gave a few minutes ago, I need to know that tire is bad before it leaves the building, not when it's on the customer's car. Because your brand is everything. When the cyber criminals come in and hack you, it's your brand that gets hacked. You'll pay the money, because we'll have to, but now your name is out there. Now the shareholders know that. It's such a big impact to your business. So that's why they're pulling that data back and they're making those decisions quickly and efficiently inside the factory. So that's where we're going, and it's kind of based on where we've been, right? So it's where we've been, the journey. I don't know where the end of the journey is, but the question we get a ton is, where do I start? How do I start? Steve, that's great information. Thank you for sharing that. Where do I start? Well, that's not a one size fits all, right? I think the starting point depends. It depends on where your struggles are, where your challenges are, where your business is, where you might be losing money the most. If we point at unscheduled downtime, if you have plants, manufacturing plants, that aren't performing well, if they're OEE, if their plant performance is low or unacceptable, if you look at all 30 of your factories and this one way over here is doing very poor compared to the others, that's a place to start. That's a place to start. And we can help you, we can assist you. Cisco has a lot of really smart people that understand manufacturing from the sensor all the way to the application. And we can talk about what right looks like, how to help you, measure that plant so you can really understand and baseline how it's performing, whether it's in terms of unscheduled downtime, whether it's in terms of, machines not working properly, they're still running, but they're barely running. The golden batch, what's your product look like coming out the door, your logistics, your supply chain. Probably 20 years ago, we would say that automation is the backbone of that. And automation is very much an important part of that. But the thread that's right behind all the automation and all the plants and all the machines is your network. That is the golden backbone across manufacturing. And that's what needs to be addressed absolutely right out of the gates. So I want to thank everybody. This has been a great event. If you want to watch more, please watch more. We have, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of really smart people at Cisco. They can sit down and have conversations with you about, what your network could look like, should look like, and then help you develop a journey to get there. Because again, we can't just show you a picture and say, do this. But what we can do is we can talk about what right might look like for you, for your operations, for your factory, and then help you build a journey toward that. It's not overnight and it's not one size fits all, but it is one size fits you as a customer. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. More to follow, and look forward to hearing from you soon.